Now, where have you found your inspiration from? A lot of it sounds like you've found it from yourself, really, and the people that you've met along the way.
Well, I was thinking about this in quite a lot of depth, and I am a massive history buff. I did a history degree and I'm reading all sorts of stuff. And I'm thinking of doing a podcast about kind of outrageous women. I'm sure there's loads out there already, but kind of interesting women. And quite often I'm on all these groups and stuff for history and that. And every time I come across an interesting woman, I save her in favourites. And I've got a whole load of like these amazing women that no one's ever heard of, which were really inspirational and really cool. So one of my favourite ones is a woman called Rattlesnake Kate, right? And she was in America in the 1900s, kind of a rancher. And when she was about 20, she was riding on a horse with her 3-year-old son, and she saw a rattlesnake, and she walked into, by accident, a den of rattlesnakes. And she got off her horse, her kid's still on the horse. All she had was a sign, and she killed 140 rattlesnakes and then made a dress out of their skins and used to wear it all the time. She was called Rattlesnake Kate. And she was married 6 times and divorced 6 times. She was a bootlegger. She was a taxidermist and a midwife as well. So I just think women like that are brilliant. I'm writing a book at the moment about munitions workers in the First World War. They're all women. And I started doing some research about women's football teams. And there's a woman called Lily Parr, who was a big smoker, a heavy drinker. She was the kind of Pele of the First World War, because women's football used to be massive before after the First World War, the FA kind of stopped them from playing on grounds. So then it just disintegrated. But Lily Parr was like the pin-up, and they used to get crowds of like 20,000, really, really massive. Women's football was bigger than men's football, and it was just stopped. And she's a very, very interesting woman. And then I've been doing a lot of, I'm droning on, sorry, but I've been delving into a lot of kind of oral history around the munitions workers in the First World War, the Canary Girls and all that. And some of the stories, just incredible. And I just think, these were working class women who were domestic servants, who'd never, not like us, we didn't have telly and all that. And they worked, they had families, they had friends go to war, they lived through the First World War, they probably lived through the Second World War, and me, I get stressed if I run out of milk and have to go to Aldi. Do you know what I mean? I just think, I wish my grandmother, I'd interviewed her when I was younger and not just dismissed her, I think she would have had a lot of very interesting things. So my inspiration, I think, for me, is like the things women have done, but this hidden history, no one knows about it. But if you delve into, like me, I'm always, I like her, and I save her. I've got a little tag called cool, and I've got about 25. So I'm thinking I might do a little podcast about it. If you think there'd be an appetite for it, it might just be me being a bit weird. I don't know. What do you think, Mary?
No, I think so. But I think that's really interesting, because I think we forget that because the history is not available easily, it's not digitized, there's not the records that we have now. You forget that there's been these incredible women who didn't have any point of reference other than the life they were living, but they just lived it. And I think there's so much to learn from that. And I met a genealogist at a networking event the other day. And he said the biggest regret a lot of people have when they come and get their family tree done is they didn't speak to their grandparents or elderly relatives and find out more about their family tree, because, and I said, well, yeah, my dad's parents died when he was 14, so I don't know anything about that side of the family. And I don't really know much. And my godmother, who became like an adopted grandmother, she was born in Switzerland, lived in France, then moved over to London, got bombed out in the Second World War, but was a seamstress at Dickens and Jones in London.
Really?
And I think she must have had this incredible life. But I think I was 12 when she died, but I would have loved to know what her story was. You know, she was this woman of mystery. How she ended up in Lancashire from Switzerland.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest transfer, I don't think. But yeah, but I think there'd be a real appetite for that, because there is something really inspiring of hearing about people who really strode out on their own.
And I think,
Yeah.
history's written by men, but, obviously with the suffragettes, we always think of the Pankhursts, but they were just the posh women. There were thousands of women involved in that, So, yeah, I get my inspiration from, I think, women that have lived before, and trying to put myself in their shoes and thinking, wow, that was incredible what they did, and they probably didn't even
Yeah.
realise it,
Yeah, and like you say, a great reframe when you are getting stressed because you've run out of milk.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got to pop out in the car for it. Yeah.
You haven't got to go milk a cow and walk a mile down the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with the buckets
exactly.
like this. Yeah. I love that answer. So I think I probably can guess this, but I'm going to ask you, how do you want to inspire others? Because it sounds like you already have inspired a lot of other people through your podcast and your book.
Well, that's kind of you to say. Like you say, I think with the book and the podcast, I'd like to kind of help the breast cancer community just to have a voice, really, and just to inspire people to not just read the kind of dry, medical, scary NHS material and see that, your life isn't over. You might not have any eyebrows or any hair, but there's a whole community of people out there. We had some woman who tattooed eyes on the back of her head. So she said she was a CEO of an IT company. She said everyone was talking about her bald head. She said, I'm going to give them something to talk about. And she'd go into bars and put a hat on and freak everyone out who thought she was an alien. So just kind of inspiring people, I think, to not see it as a terrible thing. But because for me, and Estelle and I have both talked about it, if I hadn't had cancer, I wouldn't have written my book. Not that it's made me a millionaire, but I wouldn't have done the podcast. I wouldn't have stretched myself. I think it is a gift as well. Not, someone said that to me when I got cancer, I'd probably punch them in the mouth. But
Yeah.
But it's, I'm a lot tougher, I think, than I used to be. I don't put up with people's bullshit like I used to. I mean, I do, because I'm still pretty pathetic at confrontation. But I think also it makes you do that kind of friends housekeeping. Like, a lot of people that you kind of expect to step up don't, and people that you don't think will step up do. And you kind of you find out who your friends are, which is tough, but also it's a gift, because you know who the good people are in your life. And that's something that comes with cancer, and it makes you take a deep breath and stop and look at your life and think, well, actually, I need to, you never know what's around the corner. And when you think you might die, you start thinking, well, what's important in my life? What do I want to do? I'm not going to waste my time doing stuff that I don't want to do. So now I'm trying to write more books. I'm not doing very well. I just go down rabbit holes of research. Ooh, I spent an hour and a half looking at swearing in the First World War the other day because it was so interesting. Because I want my book to be authentic.
Well, sometimes you've got to go to that depth, haven't you? Our mutual friend Maddie, who's writing her next book, was saying how much she's researched poisons and how to kill people and dispose of bodies. So her search history is like,
Yeah, she's a bit scary.
Yeah.
But no, so I've completely forgotten what the question was. But what was
how you inspire others? But I think you've
yeah.
You've
I
covered.
just,
Yeah,
that's me all over. I just go all over the place. So I don't know if I do
yeah.
inspire others, but I'm hoping so. So there you go.
I'm sure you do because I think you have turned a negative into a positive, and that's all you can do when you are dealt a hand, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And but whilst acknowledging that sometimes it has been rough and sometimes you have felt scared, but you've picked yourself up and done it anyway.
yeah, yeah. I think, like you say, you don't really have a choice, but I do see people. Obviously, I've come across a lot of people, and most people, when they get to a certain stage, it becomes much easier once you've got the knowledge and the power. But it's about not not kind of floating along. All of a sudden, you think, right, this is my plan, this is where I'm going, and you do kind of turn it on its head. But it's hard. It's a hard point to get to, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people assume that life is going to map out a certain way and don't expect anything to throw them off the course of that. I mean, I've unfortunately I've experienced a lot of serious illness in and around my
Oh
family,
gosh,
so I kind of live in that moment anyway.
yeah,
So I always say that I'm not waiting for anything like that to happen to do what I want to do. I'm doing my bucket list now,
yeah.
so I don't want to wait. But I don't think perhaps a lot of people, unless they've experienced that, they're kind of just a bit on autopilot, aren't they?
I mean, look at you going out doing stand-up comedy. I mean, wow. Do you know what I mean? That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're kind of quite.
Well, that yeah, at the age of 45, it's quite a change, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's amazing. So, I'm impressed. I'm in awe.
oh, thank you.